Hi everyone.
Well,
All right.
hi.
So today is the second part of how to get better at being strong, how to get good at being strong. However, I phrased it. So we talked about the fives last time, and then we're going to talk about the hundreds today. So the assistance work, right? Speaking of which, next week I'm going to start a new cycle toward my bench press. So I'm going to try to get back to 180.
400 pounds, baby.
So 4 or 5, right? 4 plates on the bench. Static has always been my weakness, but especially static pressing. So I think I got to like 395, something like that, prior, and I really want to get to. Honestly, what I want to get is 4 plates at the global gym, so that I'm that guy. I won't lie. There's a part of me that want to be that guy.
Yeah. So Julian and I have like a 400 pound, 180.
4 plates. Yeah.
4 plates club.
Sumo, deadlift for Janina and bench press for me.
I'm gonna try to sumo
Yeah.
4 plates. I think it's better for me than the conventional.
I don't know. You're super strong on the conventional.
Yeah,
too.
my
I don't know,
PR's on
we'll
the
see.
conventional,
Yeah.
but
We'll see.
I like
So,
the sumo technique a lot.
I'll start the program next week. I'll post it on Julian's Corner, right? And then you can follow my programming every week for that. I'll still do legs, obviously. Otherwise, I'll have the biggest chicken legs or the smallest chicken legs ever. I look like a French bulldog. I mean, like all buff with no legs. I mean, I already look like. I look like a gorilla right now, but if I don't do legs, I'll look like a French bulldog.
Yep.
So I'm gonna keep doing legs.
Nothing wrong with that. We're gonna pick up our second dog, by the way,
Exactly.
in 30 minutes.
So, but the key is, you'll see all the stuff about the bench. So I'll do next week podcast on that, on the program for the bench. Why am I choosing the exercises that I'm choosing? How you should adapt for you and stuff like that. But
and I think the assistance work combined with the strength work for the
bench, yeah, exactly. So we'll talk about that next week, and that will be the start of the new program. Today, what we're going to talk is assistance work overall. Obviously, assistance work is a big part of getting strong, but I think it's a big part overall because that you should do even if it's just a pure CrossFitter. Assistance work is needed to get strong in the sense that it's needed to get you in one piece through the end of the programming. And
which is still the number one thing to get strong, right?
Yeah,
not hurting.
I think people don't understand the biggest glass ceiling you can create for yourself is on the structure side first, right? But after that, it's on stabilization. It's on soft tissue recovery. And honestly, the more you have the right tension in the right places, the less you're going to grind incorrectly on your soft tissue. There's always going to be a grind on the soft tissue if you lift heavy, always. But the fact is, you need to put the right muscle in the right places, because without that, the imbalances will just fuck you up. For example, we're talking about the bench, right? If your shoulders hurt, you're not benching heavy, or at least you're not benching as heavy as you should, right? And let's be honest, who has the best bench press out of all the lifters? It's the bodybuilders. I've seen untold number of pro bodybuilders that can bench 500 pounds like 4 reps, which, by the way, in powerlifting is a big deal. Like you will see, especially at that, like 260 range, like 120 kilos. So the best overall bench presser in an overall powerlifting type competition at 120 kilo were Stanley Ferding, the White Rhino, and Larry Wills. Both of them are bodybuilders. Larry Wills is an amazing bench presser at 120 kilo. I mean, Stanley Ferding had a 900 pound raw squat, a 600 pound deadlift, and an over 800 pound deadlift at 120 kilo at the age of 45, by the way. And Larry Wills had a massive deadlift, as we all know, but also I think he even benched 660, if I'm not mistaken. But I know he's done 600 in competition.
It's insane how good of a powerlifting lifter he is, especially with the waist he has. It's insane.
Right, but Stanley Ferding is a pro bodybuilder.
Really?
Yeah. He went pro bodybuilder before he was a world champion powerlifter. Right, so the two best bench presser in the 125 kilo weight class were bodybuilders. Larry Wills is not a pro, but Stanley Ferding was. That tells you something. It's honestly, you need bigger arms, you need big shoulders, you need big pecs, and you need to use your lats. Like there's just no There's just no question around it. I mean, so assistance work is very important, first of all, so that you can have a long and productive career, and so that you can finish your 16 weeks programming or whatever it is. Now, I mean, like,
and also that you can get the jar out of the top shelf without like.
Right. If if your lower back is always grinding in the morning, if your shoulders are always like ow every time you reach for the soap, like you're not gonna be as strong as you should be. Let me put it this way. And I think a very important part of all that is the assistance work that you do. I think mobility is done through assistance work. Yes, there is always a place for flexibility training in the sense of the range of motion that you should be able to go through so that you can reach that particular range of motion. But at the end, mobility is range of motion while under tension. And there is no better work than the correct assistance work. Yeah, so sometimes it's not just bicep curls, but assistance work done right is the key to longevity and the key to strength. Honestly.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing about the openers, right?
Right. And because assistance work is the one place where you can deal with imbalances. Right? You can do it with the fives somewhat, but only if you have already a good base of the pyramid. So obviously the Strongfit principles apply. So we're going to work on structure, the S pyramid through the carries, right? That's going to be the base of the S pyramid, like the stiff leg deadlift. For me, for example, because it makes my lower back very strong, while my upper back is naturally strong, so I have to balance those two. And that second layer, like stabilization, this is where I think assistance work comes in. So that's what I want to talk about today, is how do we do that, the hundreds. So first of all, let's go as to what not to do. What's not to do is having a mindset of going heavy on assistance work. Forget that. That's number one mistake. It's like only doing heavy WODs in CrossFit. You will burn out. So unless you're a very, very specific type of person who does not aggravate their soft tissue grind through heavy bodybuilding, don't do it. So I'll talk for myself. The second I go heavy bodybuilding, I have 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So last time I did a cycle of 8 weeks, and what happened was I got stronger in the gym, and it did not translate to my strongman stuff at all, or my press overhead or anything like that. The tricep got stronger, so that it did help a little bit on the press, but basically it did not transfer. And doing too much incline actually irritated my shoulders. So there's like in the world of strongman, you had a guy named Derek Poundstone who's finished second at the world's strongest man behind Pujanovsky because he missed loading a stone by that much. It's a game of inches. He was not kidding. If he loads the stone, he wins the world's strongest man, and he missed by that much because I think he just took off mentally. Anyway, he was basically a very, very strong bodybuilder, and he mostly trained in the gym, which I thought was very interesting. And he trained only the events once a week.
I heard that with multiple strongmen actually.
Brian Shaw does that. Yeah, but see, there's different one. Brian Shaw does that, and you had like Bill Kazmaier was a very strong bodybuilder. What's interesting though is you had a guy like Jaco Horla, who was twice world's strongest man, weighing only 120 something kilos, so 265. So he was very small. Yeah, he was the first one to train pretty much events. But like Pujanovsky was an event type trainer. He was a bodybuilder, but in the gym he didn't try to go especially heavy. He was just perfect form, and he would mostly work the events to get better at them. And to me, he was still the greatest strongman out there. Jonas Savekas did some work in the gym, but he wasn't going strong in the gym. He was going strong by doing the events. So there's two schools of thoughts. Training on that, I do believe working the events is better. But again, it depends a lot on you. Back to assistance work. So how do I want you to do it? So we're going to look at different things. So first of all, do not go necessarily heavy. That does not mean you get to be lazy, right? So just because we're not going to go heavy doesn't mean you grab the lightest dumbbells in the stuff where you could actually put a bit more weight. What I mean by that is that the focus is not going to be on the weight for like 6 to 8 reps. What we're going to do is sets of 15 reps, right? So we can go very heavy for 15 reps. That being said, you're going to go as heavy as you can with perfect form for 15 reps. So there's always that fine line in training where if we say 15 reps, you're going to try really hard to get to 16, right? And if you can get to 18, you add more weight, you go back down to 15. So that's very important to understand. do not think heavy, but that doesn't mean you get to slack off. That's always the line, right? That's always where the complication is explaining that your form has to be good, but that does not mean you get to sacrifice intensity too much either.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to find that fine line.
But it's definitely a different type of intensity. It's more intensity towards, let me figure this out, let me have a right movement pattern and be disciplined towards the movement. Hey.
Sorry, the dog is losing his shit because we have monkeys again. So you're gonna see him run by like this all the time.
Yeah.
So again, we're gonna do perfect form. We're gonna talk about that right now. How we're gonna apply to all this, and we're gonna go for pretty much around 15 reps, right? Good form, but still try to go as heavy as you can while maintaining form for 15 reps. So remember constraint versus objectives, right? If we start to think weight, it's an objective. You're gonna start to go heavier and heavier on assistance work. That is not necessarily the point, but the constraint is as much weight as we can for the 15 reps with the proper form. So that's very important, right?
But not too light.
Not too light, but you don't think you're gonna get stronger in that session. That's not what it's for. Second part of that session, we're going to do one exercise per body part only. So we're not going to do it the bodybuilding style that is, like incline and then flies and then this and that. Like we're not going to train the pecs doing three exercises for 3 sets of 15 for each. What we're going to do is we're going to choose one exercise per body part. So you choose one for, let's say, the chest. It can be flies, it can be incline, whatever works your well. We're going to do one exercise for the biceps, one exercise for the triceps, one exercise for the shoulders, one exercise for the quads, one exercise for the hammies, one exercise for the lats, in whatever order you choose, by the way. The reason we're doing it like this is because I want the blood to travel. So you're going to have to pump your biceps, then you're going to pump your triceps, then you're going to pump your legs, then it's going to go back up toward the lats or whatever angle. Again, one exercise for the traps. So you're going to have to get a massive pump, because that's the point of this session, is just to get a massive pump, but everywhere. And that means that pump is going to have to travel from your upper body to your lower body, from the front to the back. And you'll tell me how it feels to you, but I find it very hard to recover from.
Yeah,
harder than if we just do, let's say, pecs and shoulders, right?
To me, honestly, it's the hardest session to recover from, because
it's very taxing.
It's very taxing. Like it's not like strength how you recover from it, but it's definitely one that makes me my nervous system
gets shot. So we do 3 sets of 15 reps with max weight, right? But only one exercise per body part. And then we're going to talk about how we choose those exercises, right? But it's actually way more taxing than splitting the body parts per week.
It is.
So you end up doing the same number of exercise per week, but with splitting as like basically a full body every time. Sorry, the monkey is right there, so the dog is trying to save us from the jungle. There you go.
Yeah.
So I think from, like, for example, if you're a CrossFitter, also that approach is far more interesting, because we're trying to fatigue the muscle, obviously, but from a CrossFit perspective, it's always a whole body workout. Every CrossFit workout is a whole body workout.
Well, and even every powerlifting movement is a whole body workout.
Unless you're a bench press specialist.
Unless.
I mean, so, but if you look at strongmen, it's going to be the same thing. It's a whole body all the time. So I find it more interesting to do my assistance work as a whole body. And again, it taxes you differently. So I find it very interesting. So how are we going to choose the movement? So remember that the workout is going to be split between the 5s and the 100s. So that means that I'm going to have specific movements that I target for my 5s. So let's say for the bench press, I like the bench press off of block. So it's going to be a lot of triceps, right? I'm going to have to, plus I have a fairly narrow grip stance. So for example, since I'm going to do my bench off of a block, I don't need to do close grip bench press as an assistance work, because I would be basically doubling the movement. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to do skull crushers. I'm going to do triceps press down, things like this, dips, for example. But the 100s are going to be different from the 5s. If that makes sense. So since we're squatting, and then I'm doing a lot of stiff leg for my deadlift because it works better for me, right? Lat work is going to be a lot of lat pull downs, a lot of pulling, like seal rows, I'm going to try to build my upper back through assistance work, whereas the mid back is going to be through the deadlift and everything. I'm going to use a stiff leg in my assistance work, in my fives, and not in my assistance work, because honestly, the stiff leg worked for me better to get strong at deadlifting, which is not, that's not necessarily the case for everybody, but for me it works really, really well. So I keep it as a fives. But what I mean by that, for example, so if we do a lot of bench pressing and a lot of log pressing or dumbbell in the fives, in the hundreds, I'm not going to press again. What I'm going to do instead is we're going to work on the three heads of the shoulder. So let's take the shoulder as an example. The fives will be, let's say, log press and monster dumbbell, right? If it's CrossFit, it'll be push presses and things like this. So for assistance work, we're going to work out the shoulder in a more isolated way. So what we're going to do is, let's say we have 3 full body sessions per week, or even if you narrow it down to 2, one session will be rear delt, 3 sets of 15, one session would be side delt, third session would be front delt, right? If we cut it in 2 sessions per week, then we do front and rear delt, and then the next session we'll do side delt. 3 sets of 15, and then you move on to the next body part, so that we don't keep pounding on the same muscle group all the time. Soft tissue recovery matters, and I like that entire pump. Now, what also has to come into play into choosing all this is the angles. What do I mean by that? It is crucial that you work with the movement in supinated, pronated, and neutral. It is very, very, very important.
So why is that?
Because the angles is where, so again, we're talking about imbalances, right? If we bench press, we're always going to bench press in competition pronated. If you press, you either press pronated or you press in neutral, right? But that's all. Most pressing is in pronated. You see that Olympic weightlifting, it's always pronated. You develop imbalances by doing that. Or chance to compensate for that is through assistance work. So now, the body doesn't care that you're doing powerlifting or CrossFit or anything. It was brought up through evolution, and if we look at the monkeys that we have, when you climb on a tree, you're going to end up doing pronated, neutral, and supinated, because the branch are shaped differently, different sizes and everything. We are supposed to hit all types of movement patterns, not just specific ones that apply to a barbell.
Yeah, okay.
So it's very important when you do your assistance work that you think about angles all the time. So what do I mean? When you do side, you want to think about doing it with your thumb going up, or your thumb basically, your hand parallel to the ground. You can even do sides with your thumbs facing down. It is important to face all those different angles, because honestly your shoulder is designed to acclimate to all movements, and that includes a different angle of the hand. It's going to be the same thing when you press, right? So you're going to press the fives in there. Like if we're going to do flies, for example, you can do flies in a neutral grip, you can do more supinated or more pronated, right? The angle of the thumb basically is going to be that. So for example, if we do tricep press down, right, or skull crushers or whatever, I'm going to do skull crushers pronated, but I'm also going to do neutral. When I do my press down, I make sure that and that's a tricep opener, that I do my work pronated, neutral, and supinated. So whenever it comes to the bicep, the tricep, lats, all that thing, you have to work all 3 angles. Do not get stuck in only one hand position. So for example, lats, we do lat pull downs. 1 week you're going to go pronated, 1 week you're going to go wide pronated, then the next session you're going to go narrow neutral, then maybe narrow supinated, then narrow wide the next session, then supinated short, then neutral wide, and then you constantly varied the stance, your
constantly
grip.
Varied, look at you.
Well, yeah, because for assistance work,
CrossFit thing.
Exactly, constantly varied. Well, actually, that's with Siemens, but that's another conversation. So what I want you to do is I want you to change, for example, for lat pull down, whether you go medium, close, or wide grip, but then supinated, neutral, or pronated. So that means that changes every session. So it's going to be 1 exercise per session, constantly changing the angle from the last time.
And you know what I like about that? Because it keeps you involved in your training, and it makes
it'll make more fun anyway.
Yeah, exactly, because every time you can go to the gym going like, okay, I'm gonna hit these body parts. How am I gonna approach it this week? What did I do last week? Where did I feel like I was lacking in maybe the other sport that I was doing? Which angle am I looking for this week? I feel like it keeps you involved and stimulated.
Right. Well, it keeps you thinking about what you're doing, and honestly, I have a tendency to favor the one you suck at the most.
Right, that's always
because
the thing,
in CrossFit you're mostly pronated, so you should definitely have some assistance work in supinated, for example.
But
that's
in general, like usually if you find something you suck at, you should do it a
lot. You should do it a bit more, right? So, for example, lat pull downs. That's crucial for everybody. Like pull-ups are great, but you can if you do with a narrower grip, you can use your traps a lot. So if we're gonna talk pull-ups, you have to make sure you do it with a wide grip, in pronated and in neutral, but I will also do a lot of work with lat pull downs. Like you have to get that teres major involved, and that's for everybody. If you have any type of shoulder issue, just do lat pull downs. All 3 grips, all 3 stands. It's just the way it is. So for the lats, I highly suggest lat pull downs. Can be vertical, or can be even like a horizontal pull. Both cases is good because you're still gonna hit the same ideas, right? But especially in that vertical plane, because you do pull-ups, but normally toward the trap. So it's very important to do lat pull-downs. It's just a great movement.
And it isolates it more. Like I feel like with the sometimes in the pull-up you're limited by how good you are in keeping the hollow position or the arch position and stuff like that. And the whole body.
And not everybody can do a pull-up anyway.
Right. And if you put bands,
by the way, and if you're already doing a lot of pull-ups during your normal training, then just go do lat pull-downs. It's just honestly, lat pull-downs are great for you. Like especially with the different angles, you should do that. Biceps. So biceps, same idea. Bicep, we're gonna do it reverse curl, so it's gonna be more like the forearm type of idea, the brachialis. Those are good. We're gonna go neutral, so that's the hammer curls. Then we're gonna go supinated, which is your typical dumbbell curls. Then you can use dumbbells, you can use pressure curl, you can use a barbell, you can use an easy curl. So same thing, all 3 angles. Triceps, as I was saying, whether it's tricep press down or it's some type of skull crusher, guess what? 3 angles. Same idea. Shoulder, pecs. So pecs are a little bit different in the sense of we're not going to press as much as we're going to do flies, right? So what I would do though on the flies is there's different types of flies. There's the flies where you open up directly into a perpendicular with yourself angle, and then there's the fly that you do more like a front lever, like a gymnastic, what I call a bicep opener, that face. I would highly suggest that you do that one. It is the best insurance for your shoulders with the tricep opener is the bicep opener, like that front lever face. So what I like to do a lot is I go to the gym, I grab the cables, right? And I do the front lever with cable. I actually stole that from the Chinese gymnastic team. And it allows you to hit the top part of the pec, more what normally would be used in an incline. And you can work enough weight that you can improve tremendously your mobility through that exercise. It will hit your biceps and the pec at the same time, and I just think it's a very good movement for your shoulders.
That movement, because my overhead position was really a problem for the longest time, that one made me able to
so
be
that
overhead.
movement from the bicep opener, the tricep opener, honestly is going to go a long way.
This one allowed me to do
by the way, both the openers come from gymnastics, so that's why I created them. I just like to do it with cables because you have a good control, right? And then you can change the weight. I'm not going to do a front lever,
and you can change the angle slightly. Right now,
I'm not capable of doing a front lever. Exactly. With a cable, you can change your hand. And even there, same idea. We can do it in supinated or we can do it in neutral. And it changes the angle toward hitting that part between your front delt and your pec, which is going to be crucial for your shoulder health. So I like those exercises a lot. So when it comes to assistance work for the pecs, I much rather you go toward the flies, like that bicep opener type of flies, and play around there, basically. Pressing will do it in the 5s. What do we get? I do shrugs, right? And for the legs, you have 2 choices. You can do leg curls, and you can do like back extensions, for example, hip extensions. Not back extension in the sense of you going for the. You could go out there for for the lumbar erectors, but I think CrossFitters are plenty of that. So let's say a hip extension so that you can hit the glutes and the hammies. If you go on a GHD, you will go more toward the glutes. If you go on that 45-degree angle, you'll destroy your hammies. That's a good way to do it. That and the leg curls, honestly, you go back and forth. And even on that, like when you do that 45-degree, you can put your feet slightly out or basically more facing forward, and you will hit your hammies very differently on that.
And I also like, personally, I really love the laying hemi-curl. It's been helping the most, but focusing with 3 different foot positions. So feet pointed on ball of the foot.
That too.
And to more narrow versus more wide to hit all the different angles of the hamstring.
Yep.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Same thing on the
it's a
hip
good
extension.
way. And then do calves as well, right? You can do seated calves, you can do standing, all that stuff. But all the different angles will help. I do them just because they don't grow doesn't mean I'm not doing them. That's why she's looking at me like that. I don't have legs. What do you want me to tell you?
I don't do calves. Just as a statement.
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't have to, right?
He goes to calves, I do abs.
Yeah, pretty much. Abs, by the way, there's another one where you're doing a lot of GHG and everything, but how many of you are doing rotational work for the obliques? There's your assistance work. So you can do sides and stuff like that, but I will also make sure you do rotational work toward the obliques. That is insurance for your back, and it's so you do the oblique opener, but then after that, start to do rotational work for the obliques. It's just an insurance for your back. I don't care if your back is hurting or not. You should do it anyway. And the last part, you will notice when you do assistance work that there are some muscles that react very well to the training. I mean, you get a good pump, and it feels awesome. Right. You're also going to notice that not all muscles agree to that. So the point is, when you do well with a movement and you find it easy, just get a pump. Don't worry about it. Just move the damn thing. Just get a pump. You're going to find that some muscles don't react like that.
Yes, it's so freaking annoying.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Like so some exercise you go like, I totally get it. And others you're like, I don't feel it. So there's going to be 2 ways to deal with this. The muscle that responds well, again, don't worry about it. Just pump. Get a pump. Move that weight. Don't stress yourself out. The ones that don't work, what I want you to do really is to fully contract the muscle for a full second. So what do I mean by that? Like let's say you do a lat pull down. Like at the end of the movement, you're going to hold for a second and then you're going to come back and then you're going to hold for a second. If you do that with a full contraction, 2 things are going to happen. It's going to slow you down a bit, right? Which is going to force you to connect better to the muscle, to pay attention to what you're doing. And that extra contraction is going to allow you to connect to the muscle better. So as an example, I want you to Google Nick Walker, the mutant, who finished 2nd at the Arnold this year and 3rd at Mr. Olympia.
This man is gigantic.
He's short, but man, is he big. But look at the way he trains. He has that fairly slow pull or push with a full contraction that he holds for a second and full focus on what he does. That is the way I want you to go at those recalcitrant muscles that don't seem to want to collaborate. Google him, Nick Walker, the mutant, and look at him do triceps. He has huge arms, so he doesn't need to work them that much, but he has to work very hard on his pecs, especially his upper pec. So Google like a chest session from him, and you're going to see how much he focuses on squeezing the muscle, full stretch, squeezes. But you'll see also that he's in control of the contraction at all times. And that's going to be the part. The full squeeze at the end, again, will slow you down. Time under tension is required for growth, but I think more importantly, it's required to connect your mind to the exercise and feel the movement, especially with CrossFitters who have a tendency to refuse to connect and just move through movement. You're going to have to pay more attention to what you do. You don't have to do it for everything, but for the muscles that don't want to grow, it's very important. Like for me, like my traps lately have been developing.
Yeah. Because
I do shrugs, and whenever I shrug, I hold at the top for a full second, then I rest, then I hold for a full second, I rest at the bottom, I rest at the top for a full second for sets of 15. I do it with 135 per hand because I have actually strong traps from Strongman. But that being said, so that's the most weight I can handle. But you have to understand, I do reps to 15, sometimes 20 reps, but with a full contraction of a second every time. And that has actually allowed me to get the traps, because no matter how strong they are, they were not developing. It's because I was just moving, right? And by just moving my shoulders up and down, I was actually more working my mid-back than I was working my traps. Guess why? Because my mid-back is very strong naturally, and I always know how to find it. What I was not finding is the traps. So by holding for a full second, and I know exactly where the traps are, and I make sure the tension stays there. Same thing for the biceps, which I hate doing, is holding for a second, lowering, holding for a second. What I discovered is that I need to thicken the part by the elbow. That's my problem, because my forearms are so strong and so thick that they take over from my brachialis. And the lack of development of my brachialis is actually the reason my biceps don't want to catch up. So what I have to do is a lot more neutral hammer curl with a full hold at the top. And you're going to see that in the program for the bench pressing starting next week, because that elbow area of my arms has to develop.
Yeah.
Same thing for the triceps, by the way.
You know what, and I don't know how you feel about it, but what I like about it, the sessions too, is that it's kind of like a different approach than the other sessions. So you take a lot of like neural output out of it, which I feel like
it's not
helps
about neural
mentally
output.
recover from the strength session, where it's like, okay, I feel like the body understands, like, okay, it's about
intent,
feeling good, like
intent is everything. You're totally right. That's the main problem we see with CrossFitters, is all sessions are the same. You do assistance work like you do a WOD. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Like but you're gonna have to have more than one thought pattern in your head. I know it's gonna be hard for you CrossFitters, right? But you're gonna have to work toward that, right? So what you're gonna have to have is you're gonna have to an intent, a mindset for the fives, an intent, a mindset for assistance work, and a mindset intent for your WODs, and they are not going to be the same.
It's funny because I feel like that is allowing me to actually increase the quality and volume of my training, is that I make sure that the training sessions that I have a different intent, and that you only have a few types of intent but different sessions combined, and that allows me actually to train more. It's probably also a nervous system thing, but
well, the thing is, you can't always rely on your neural output. If you rely on your neural output,
really fast.
exactly.
I mean, that's the
for
problem.
assistance work, for example, you're going to go too heavy. You're going to either hurt yourself or grind yourself to oblivion, and you'll be exhausted.
Yeah.
Because that's not the point. The point is to get a pump.
Yeah.
That's the point. But that doesn't mean you don't get to work correctly. So and that's a mindset you need to have, is what is the intent of the workout, and to go full bore into that intent with the constraints required for that workout.
And
in that case is angles, finding the muscle, get a pump.
I think that's the way of being able to get the most out of each session and get the intensity that you're looking for with that intent. But you have to stick to that.
You have to stick to that. If you
intent.
don't get a pump in assistance work, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I don't care how, like even if you take breaks in between, doesn't matter. If you don't get a pump, you're doing it wrong. You know what I mean? But it's not a CrossFit workout either. It's not a CrossFit workout either. For example, if we're starting to do sides and all you feel are your traps, guess what? You're doing it wrong.
Well, yeah, and also like don't do it as a arm rep or whatever.
It's not a CrossFit workout. It's a very specific intent.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is next week, since I begin the bench press program, I'll explain exactly which exercise I'm going to choose for the fives and for the hundreds. What is my intent behind it, and then explain to you how you would adapt it to yourself.
I like it.
Sounds good?
Sounds like a good plan.
We're going to go get our puppy, so...
We're going to go get my puppy. I'm so excited.
You notice that she said her puppy, not our
It's my puppy.
I said our puppy, she said her puppy. Welcome to marriage. See you guys next week.